So we wanted to have a discussion on this pod about form over function, beauty versus utility. We weren't exactly sure how to like jump into it, and Nick is in China. So in lieu of Nick, I decided I would see what like AI would maybe like tee us up with. So I'm going to shamelessly intro this prompt with what GPT gave me. Do we build for beauty or for survival? If something isn't useful, is it still valuable? Are we over-engineering function and underestimating form? Why do we still admire Greek statues and Apple products if the latter doesn't do anything to improve our lives and the former is clearly inferior to the Samsung version?
Okay. Okay, your voice when you read that was seductive. That was
went
beautiful.
autoerotica.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. I didn't know you had that in you.
Today,
you have a couple books in you.
Today, we are driving into the old debate, form versus function, from architecture and technology to personal branding and even romantic attraction. When is it worth it to prioritize beauty over utility? That's pretty good, actually. What do you?
So did AI write that, or is that what
AI
you
wrote
prompted?
that.
That's dumb.
Well, I gave it a prompt. I was like, hey, here's what I want to talk about. I want to tee it up.
That's
Experiment.
okay. I like these prompts.
Armand hated it.
I feel my freedom leeching away from me every minute by minute you read because AI was taking over.
No, I mean, so there's a thread here that we wanted to pull. And I think it's like a very interesting thread, but sometimes it's like, how do we get into these conversations? I want to pull the threads, but like, how do you tee it up? And I love the general concept of like form over function, beauty over utility, because it's like a driving thing in my life, right? And I also think it's a thing that's like a larger question society is like grappling with, right? Like you, Armand, have often shared like I think there's a Twitter account like Culture Critic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a fantastic one.
It's an interesting account because it shares like old stuff we built or created, like engineering, architecture, art, and then like compares it to the modern version. And it's often like, ugh.
The modern version.
Yeah. And it's like
aesthetically or quality wise?
Both, I would say.
Right?
Both, right?
Yeah.
But I think the aesthetic part is like interesting. Like this is something I've thought about a lot. It's like
stoves used to last 100 years, you know?
That's actually a fair point. Like, why did that?
Like, I would argue more of a utility thing, right? But I think a more interesting question is like, why is a lot of stuff that was like built or created or drawn or like music is a good example of this, actually. Like to go back to our goat discussion from years ago, like
Beethoven
stuff Beethoven wrote like 300 years ago still stands up today. Versus like you can find stuff people wrote in like 2009 that nobody will ever listen to again. You can find things people built in like 1989 that are fucking hideous, but like some columns some guy designed in 1000 BC is something we still look at and we're like, wow, this is like so like beautiful.
What
like,
causes something to stand the test of time?
And why?
And continue mesmerizing us.
Why did so much... Is it the case that like everything done prior was like better, or is that like a survivorship bias?
Survivorship bias. That's what I'm gonna say. Because like some of the stuff that we look at now, the Pantheon, for instance, it's gorgeous and it's still standing. But like I'm guessing a lot of buildings that were erected at that time have fallen due to earthquakes or whatever. Like that's form and function, right? Like the stuff that lasts the test of time is form and function. So I think we're ascribing to it form when it's both.
So there's a lot of threads. Let's pull on one of these threads. Within your question, like is that what do we think is the crux of the form over function?
Well,
I'm just struggling. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to make sure
I think the most interesting part that I find is like, why don't we build things beautifully anymore?
Okay. I like that.
Or do you think modern society, I think, is less beautiful than past societies.
And then can we be specific about, like, are we talking about the United States of America? You know, like, I don't know. If I went to
Just like lump the
Tajikistan
Western,
right now,
lump the Western world together. We're all Westerners.
I think that's an obvious yes, right? Like, things are not as beautiful as they were.
I think I would challenge anybody to
Things are constructed on a 10-year timeline.
Give me
right?
like a recent build that is like wowing anybody in terms of design.
I mean, you could find even within the US, right? Like the East Coast has a lot more beautiful time-tested structures.
Yeah.
It's a very different design in the East Coast.
But we lived in San Francisco. The most famous building that was like most recently erected was Salesforce Tower. Beautiful or not? Standard.
It's standard. It's one of those like shock value buildings, right? It's like not a building that I think is in 100 years sitting there and people go, man, you remember in 2007 when they built the Salesforce
Is it even
Tower?
shock value? It's four
It's just
walls.
big.
It's four
It's just
walls and
big.
tall.
Yeah, it's just big. I think that I don't know if this isn't answering the question, but I'll just say this. I think the value of having beautiful things is invaluable. Why? Is because, you know, music, for example, I call it the wallpaper of the mind.
Yeah.
You change the music, it changes everything about how you feel. Have you ever had an ecstatic experience just walking in a beautiful garden or a beautiful city or a beautiful place? You can have a truly ecstatic experience, a spiritual experience in the right set and setting. And so the more we've reduced ourselves, even like I remember Tucker Carlson had a take on this that was like very related to our discussion, where he was talking about like how soulless corporate America is. You know, the cubicle system. I think you've seen it. That's why you're smiling. And so it's like
you're just making me think of like Tucker things with like.
Oh, okay.
Steven's never seen a cubicle.
All right.
I'm gonna start busting out my Tucker impression.
So like you know this idea of like the way it's white, it's fluorescent lighting, it's killing you. It's really kind of killing you. If you imagine working in an environment that was like green and just beautiful and comfortable, and you would be inspired to work. And I think that we continuously do this in so many settings. We do this in hospitals, we do this in office settings, we do this in buildings, we do this when we walk down the street. It's all about form. It's all about like, well, there should be
Function.
It's all about function. And that kills people. And I think that affects people. That affects, if you talk about like, if you go upstream, it seems like a small thing. It seems like a nothing. Like, what's the big deal of optimizing for form? Well, the problem is that it kills the soul of all people. And like downstream effects of that are less innovation, less happiness metric score, which we don't even measure in the Western world for the most part, rising. And I think it's a very important thing that we just underemphasize and underutilize. So that's my personal feeling about like, you know, I love going to Europe. I love going to Asia because it's beautiful everywhere. It's just gorgeous, you know? It's like
everywhere you go.
I mean, yeah, maybe. But maybe it's also novelty. Like, oh, wow, this is so different.
Well, there's
like,
also a lot of places that don't have what you're describing in the rest of the world that I think you like Europe and Asia. Those are big places.
Yeah.
The architecture is interesting. Like you can see different time periods, right? Like basically everything built in the 80s is like horrific, right? It's this kind of like brutalist style. Right?
Is there like a style that you'd like to just skip over entirely?
Yeah, like the entire 70s, 80s.
What about like Art Deco? You like that one?
Terrible.
60s? What was that? 50s, 60s?
No strong opinions. You know, like,
it's cooler than what we have now for me. Like, I like it.
I think what we do now and like at the height of modern architecture is interesting. And then I also think what we did during those times where we like had a guy spend 40 years of his life like carving some shit into a column, and that was like his entire contribution to like society, also produced like cool stuff. And then somewhere in the middle things went awry, but it's like it's an expression of society, right? Like if you live in a society where there's like abundance and there's time and there's money, you can build these things. And if you live in a society that's like austere and like at war or something, or like resource constrained, then like everything you build is an expression of that. But
can I ask you something then? Because like you are very commonly like a free market guy, right? And you would say like if if the market demanded that, then the market would provide it. And the United States, where we live, is very much like a first world country with many resources. Like, how come we don't have it?
I'm not a huge free market guy in all senses because like this relates to the drug things. Like I have this like idea of like externalities, which is like a very like libertarian thing. I would, because it's like the main exception to like free market arguments, right? And when you build like a building or something, and then like everybody around like has to look at that building for the rest of time, basically, if you build that building properly. Like every time you build something like ugly and somebody has to like set eyes on that, it like causes some sort of like minute pain to like the general populace. And I'm not for letting people build like anything they want, because like building something is not like a private decision with you. It's like you're putting like art out there in the world to some sense that like everybody has to like
That's interesting.
look at.
Because a full free market expression of that would be the most efficient thing possible. And, you know, that's why in the Western US, like buildings don't last for more than 10 years.
Well, I was thinking like about our San Francisco example, and I used the Salesforce Tower just because it's like the most recent big building. But also in San Francisco is the Palace of Fine Arts.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous, gorgeous area. And I don't know if that was for like the World's Fair or whatever it was for. That what it was for?
I think so.
But it's a gorgeous place.
Old
If you live in San Francisco, that's like a wonderful place to just go for a walk, and you get what Armand's describing. You just like feel different.
Think about it like Balboa Park, the church looking building, the museums, like those were built with a true emphasis on creating something beautiful.
Well, you actually just brought up my next point that I wanted to talk about, which was the motivation for building really beautiful things, I think, have largely been religious in nature.
I was going to bring up the same thing. Like people brought this stuff to like, they built this stuff rather to glorify God. They weren't building it for like the market.
To glorify God or to create an immortality project for themselves in many ways, to be remembered.
What are the motivations? Tough to say.
Yeah.
That's true. I think God was like an outlet for a lot of people.
It's
who
like
actually just wanted to glorify
sometimes
themselves.
An ego-driven pursuit, because what is left, your name, it's not so much your name, it's like what's the stamp you can leave on the world that will stand the test of time.
Imagine Michelangelo today. Was God just like a popular genre for him at that time?
No, it was a paid project. It was just a way to make money, and he was the best artist of his time, one of them. And
imagine if he was like this like dark, twisted individual who would just go completely different route in like modern times.
I mean, he was kind of dark, right?
I guess the Pietà was like death of Jesus. Yeah,
he had some stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between him and Da Vinci was he was willing to take on these commissions. It was a commission. It was a commissioned work for God, for the church. But at the end of the day, it was a job, and he worked a job. That's what that was. So, like, of course, he saw the opportunity as well, like to be a great artist who left this.
Is that another reason why religion is a necessity in modern society for beautiful things?
It helps make beautiful things.
Well, I think the reason
except for
churches, cathedrals, they're so beautiful, right? You step into any religious building, whether it's a mosque or a cathedral or a temple, whatever, and you can have this ecstatic experience, right? Murals, you know, just like beautiful stained glass windows, beautiful sculptures. Like it's amazing. Like I just did that in like San Miguel. I was blown away by the main church there. And like it is meant to create an ecstatic experience in human beings. And it's powerful. It's very powerful.
Do you feel like our modern equivalent to the cathedrals in a way is like Apple?
No, I think it's football stadiums.
Yeah, it is.
Well, some of them are horrific.
No, it is.
No, it's like every fucking city has one monstrosity of a fucking football stadium.
No. But like the defining factor, like, okay, so Apple to me is like the defining like form over function thing for modern society, right? Because you had, in the old days anyway, you had Steve Jobs building these things, and he was like, people were like no, don't do that. That's so expensive. The economics are bad, blah, 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 blah. And he was just like, basically like, no, fuck you. Like, this is beautiful, or people will love it. Like, he built stuff on like this, like, more spiritual level. And in a lot of ways, it like worked. Like, people connected with these things, and we paid $4,000 for a laptop that had the functionality of like a $900 Microsoft thing.
Yeah.
Because there was something
Beautiful
like
about it.
beautiful about it, right? There's
Yeah.
something deeper about it that like called to us, and like I have like leaned toward Apple products my whole life as well, even as somebody who's like slightly robotic. Like, there's still something about that called to me, even though like I know my buddy's like Samsung phone. I know it has a better camera,
Yeah.
and I know it has more memory, and I know
Yeah.
it has all this, but like there's something like beautiful about like the Steve Jobs era of Apple products to me.
I don't think it was purely beauty, though. I think there was functionality within. There was network effects, right? Like that were built out. Like I think the Apple products tended to work better, and then as like more people used it, then it became weird to be the green texture. So like eventually it became like a
yes,
function.
yes.
thing.
Later on, they
Yeah,
like
later.
roped you into the walled garden, but like initially, there was a time where people didn't own Apple stuff.
Yeah, it
Nobody
was
bought
about
the
the
Apple
wow
stuff to be in the
factor.
network. Nobody owned it.
Yeah.
They bought it because it was like
Different.
different, and it was like different in an aesthetic way.
Do you remember when they had
know?
those like PCs that were like desktop computers that were like colorful? They
Yeah.
were like green and
IMAX.
pink.
Oh, Apple.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you called them PCs, so I got
Oh,
confused.
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they were personal
The
computers.
iMac.
Yeah, like those old. They had like the
We had 'em in
clear,
school,
colorful
right?
Yeah, they were
kinda-
so cool. Like they were awesome.
They stood out so much because the other things were these like soulless like boxes that you played
Yeah.
like Oregon Trail on.
Right. Oregon Trail shout out, by the way.
You have died of cholera.
I love Oregon Trail.
Damn it.
But those iMacs or whatever were fucking awesome too. And I think people really latched on. I think that might have been the real like rebirth of Apple, actually.
Yeah, and anybody who was like a kid like wanted the Apple stuff.
Yeah.
Like you recognized as there was something like there's like a childlike appeal to it, which I think is true of like all good art, right? It appeals to like this like youthful, like uncorrupted version of ourselves that like is different, right? And like the same was true with those computers. Like when I was a kid, like I loved the Apple stuff. I always wanted it, and I would be like, "Dad, we gotta get the Apple thing," and he'd be like, "No, son, this has like so much less RAM," and he just like reel off like all the specs and why it was like
Yeah.
a terrible deal. But I didn't. My kid brain didn't get that. I was just like, "But it's so cool. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I'm
it's
just
colorful."
saying, like technology, yes, it just applies to so many things. Like if you walk into a train station right now in the US, it is so muted and gray and soulless. But if you walk into one in like Uzbekistan right now or Russia, it'll just blow you away.
Okay, Tucker.
Yeah, that's basically it is though. And like I was watching a travel video through Uzbekistan specifically. I think the travelers in Uzbekistan. And it's like every single public building that he walked into and every place that he went was just like a work of art. It was mind-blowing. Why is and what are the incentives? Like what's pulling that
don't know.
ultimately?
How they doing? Uzbekistan.
I don't know, but just you know, again, I think everything is about incentives and like who's aligned with who's doing the building, who's getting paid, what are the requirements.
Is it true that all the most beautiful buildings are in places that are no longer dominant?
I mean, what's dominant? Who's dominant? Who's dominant?
The Western world, particularly U.S. Not like China is not beautiful, probably, and they're probably the most on the come up.
I don't know, man. Shanghai looks pretty freaking unbelievable.
Never
Like,
been.
you know, it's
Yeah.
a pretty innovative, beautiful city. You know,
Never been.
Shanghai looks incredible.
Nick's there now.
I think a good government builds beautiful stuff because when you build like a beautiful train station, you're building like a work of art. Like every eyeball that sets
So it's top down driven from the government.
right,
I
like
think.
everybody who looks at it feels a sense of like, oh, this is nice.
So
They
there's
feel
the
pride.
public projects, but then there's like the free market projects. And for whatever reason, the free market, the capitalism, you know, incentivized projects in the US and the Western world are all about efficiency. and that's it.
But it's
There's
not even
much else.
just like
even homes. Homes are
it's-
cheap now.
Yeah, right. And it's not just public works projects, right? Like obviously, like homes. I think homes have actually turned around. I think people have figured out ways to build maybe prettier homes for cheaper, so it's not a total thing. But like,
It's a good.
we went through this period I feel like we went through like a 10-year period where we were just like, nope, like this skinny person's not beautiful. This like, we're gonna put fat people on the cover of Sports Illustrated. No offense, fat people. But like there was like a generalized push in like kind of pop culture society to be like, all of your traditional standards of beauty are obsolete, and you are a bad person for thinking these things are beautiful.
That there is any standard.
We're going to impose these new things on you. There is no standard, but they were really imposing like a new standard on you.
Yes.
Right. And so I wonder like why that happened.
So you think this applies to architecture as well as the human body?
I think they're different. I think there was a time where like architecture went through this like uber capitalist period where like the only thing that mattered was like dollars in, dollars out. And then you got these like grotesque looking structures, which is different than like, why do you want to push the idea that like morbidly obese like women in swimsuits are just as beautiful as like
it's kind of a big leap.
Adriana Lima, right? It's
like just postmodern chaos, you know.
Okay, can I ask you guys this?
But why does postmodernism like hate traditional beauty is the question. Why do
It's not
they
so much about hating beauty, it's about
I think it is though.
It's about removing objectivity.
Removing objective. What do you mean by that?
Objectivity is like, this is a standard of beauty and this is what beauty is and this is what we've decided, which by the way has changed very much over time. Objective agreement of what is beautiful. There have been times in society.
Look at the paintings of
plump
women in the 1300s or
was the most ideal.
No, I feel like it's different though, because I feel like when fat people were beautiful like 300 years ago, everybody genuinely like thought that. Whereas like now there's like a sense of beauty being imposed upon you that like people don't agree with, but it's being imposed.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas back then it was like natural. People just had like genuinely different preferences, and that was totally cool.
But I mean, there was an objective truth at that time that most consensus agreed with. At that time, it was for that reason. At this time, it was for a different reason, a collective truth. I think the idea is to eradicate any sense of like consensus.
What do you guys
create
think?
Chaos.
What do you guys think about like if someone were to try to build a modern wonder? Like, would it have to be fucking insane and awesome, or could somebody just build like a really cool thing, and that to them is like their life's work? And have we just gotten like desensitized to this idea of like, hey, that's really cool, but we'd be like, not the Taj Mahal, you know, like. And the example I'll choose is that the San Diego Library downtown is fucking dope. It's brand new, and none of us go there.
Wait,
yes, it's just full of homeless people jerking off.
Well, yeah, it's a homeless shower.
That's not that far from the truth.
It's a homeless shower. It's a homeless shower, but it is gorgeous. It's fucking phenomenal.
It is architecturally beautiful. But if you go there, you will see a homeless guy.
Yeah, I went in once and there were a bunch of people bathing and I walked out.
Yeah. But like, is it beautiful enough to be sort of like in this conversation, beautiful? Or like, does it have to be like astoundingly beautiful? Otherwise, we're just like, it's fine.
I think we're still like grappling with what beauty means again now. Like, I think we came out of this era where we're like, oh, we don't like building these like concrete slabs. But we're also like not building ornately carved like marble columns on everything. Even though I think that format for government stuff is like really cool. Like if we build everything in the government, like all government buildings in like kind of like Renaissance style, like I would be cool with that. Just like carve everything, stone, like pillars, columns.
The Renaissance style is just one style, right? It's not like beauty.
It's got Lindy.
It's got
a lot of Lindy.
It's got Lindy.
It's got so much Lindy.
It's got Lindy, but
like you want to build something that stands the test of time. Stone is a good medium.
Stone's
right? Don't build a lot of wood.
Statue of Liberty is pretty cool.
I mean, one thing that's missing is like some unifying idea of what is beautiful for each country. And I think America really lacks that. And other countries have some sort of agreement on like, this is our style. It's just kind of chaotic here.
Yeah, American Beauty is weird because you got like LA Beauty.
Everything.
And then you got,
Houston.
like,
What's it? You know,
Houston, I don't know what Houston Beauty is.
it's not beautiful.
Houston Beauty is ugly.
It's not beautiful.
I mean, America is like a very disjointed place. you
Yeah,
know?
very.
It's what it is, which is why I think it's like interesting to just like orient around like
Well,
the
United
Supreme Court
States-
and the style of that, which is like this old kind of like Greek or Roman or whatever
But I
style.
think even within the United States, we could like identify things that we would deem beautiful, like the Washington Monument is beautiful in its own way, and it's like completely different from a Renaissance style. Cool. Statue of Liberty's fucking beautiful.
Did you see the guy who wanted to? He put a fake video out to like petition to change the Washington Monument into the George Floyd Monument, and he just like put a photo of it. It was just painted black.
No, I
Nice.
did not see that.
Nice. Cool.
Sorry, just random aside. I've had a few beers.
Cool.
Well, make the world beautiful again.
Is there any ways in which you guys would want to incorporate that philosophy in your own lives? Like,
Well,
Getting away from
I think
function
everybody,
only.
sorry, not everybody, a lot of people just do this in their own private space, their home. That's your opportunity to create a beautiful environment. Is how you choose to decorate your home is one of the most important decisions you make. Your environment is a huge factor in your mental well-being. Like for me, it is. I think it is for everybody without unconsciously them realizing it. What you look at changes how you feel. The music you listen to, the things you look at, it truly changes your mood. You wake up, you see a beautiful plant, you see a beautiful sofa, you're like, oh, I decorated that beautifully. You look at the stuff and it just changes you.
but here's the issue I have with what you're saying. I agree. But what's hard is like in your own home, you have your own style.
Mhm.
And like my own style is kind of blasé. It's fucking like what you'd see on like HGTV or whatever. It's like a modern farmhouse. It's exactly what everybody does. And I find that to be nice.
Okay.
But that's not artistic. So like if somebody wants to be artistic and unique and awesome, like I love that, but like I'm not gonna like living with that. So like my choice is to be sort of blasé and still like gives me peace and comfort and whatever it brings.
I mean, that's fine, man. It's fine. Like as long as you are thinking about beauty, I think it's cool. And I think the thinking about it is that. So I don't know if this resonates with you, but like my life has been it's been like a beauty horseshoe. I feel like when I was a kid, like all I cared about was like superficial aesthetics or how things make me felt. And I went to this like fucking trial of like utilitarianism, and I was like, no, everything must be like useful. What is the expected value of this? And then like I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm just going back into like, oh, this looks nice. Like, oh, this is pretty, and like
It's nice to surround your things that you love surround yourself with things that you love to look at. I think you've started to do that for sure, right?
for
You know?
sure. I mean,
The
does
art
that
you have,
does
having
that-
a piano.
does that resonate with you? Like, do you feel like
Definitely.
you went through this like gap where you're just like, no utility?
Yes. I was like hardcore minimalist, all about utility.
Yeah, and you're like listening to like 8-hour work week, and you're like, oh, optimize
Yeah.
for productivity,
Yeah.
no beauty. Beauty is a burden.
And I still am kind of like that, where I hate having something that doesn't give me joy. I really do. It gives me like, ugh, I got to get rid of this.
Yeah, joy's. I feel like joy's a form. Joy's like emotional beauty.
Yeah.
It's very different from
So
utility.
in your home, I don't see much Renaissance Lindy.
I don't identify with furniture. It's just never been a thing I connect with. Like I never have been like those memes where they're like guys will literally make like $8 million in crypto and live like this, and it's just like a lawn chair and like a mattress on a floor in an apartment. Like that would like be me
I know.
if I didn't have some nudges, because like I don't care. I've never really cared about furniture that much. It's like weird. Like,
No, I know.
Although I like beauty, like furniture has always been like, wait, you want me to pay like $3,000 for that fucking chair?
Yeah, I'll just sit here.
Yeah, it's like I could just sit on the floor. Like I can sit, you know. Like so, I haven't been able to get over the furniture gap. Furniture is still like insane to me.
Wait a second. You're trying to replace these chairs. I thought you care about.
Okay, like these
Comforts, right?
chairs do need to go.
Yeah, we care about comfort.
But we were looking at the furniture place downstairs, and it was like $3,000 a chair
Per chair.
Yeah.
per chair for like something that looked like this. And I was like, okay, let's find a middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. The world has definitely shifted over time. I feel like there was a clear vision. Like what if there was, the 80s, whatever that was, it was something. And then there was like Art Deco. I don't even know what it is now.
Well, I know what it is now, but I
Wait, what is it
It's
now?
IKEA.
no, it's
No, stop
it's
it.
like modern farmhouse. It's fucking Craftsman. Like if you don't watch HGTV, obviously, because they all look the exact same.
Modern farmhouse.
It's exactly what they look like. And I'm not joking. But like I would ask you guys, like if you were like not budget constrained with like your own home to yourself that was a blank canvas, just white walls, like I think yours would look really eccentric.
So I was going to ask you guys, what would be your aesthetic? I have two that I'm always torn between.
Spanish.
Okay. Like Spanish, hacienda,
Yeah. I knew that
or
one.
it's a slight cousin of it, like Mediterranean, Shakespearean, right?
Well, Shakespeare's from England, so
Well, yeah, I guess I'm thinking of like almost like a more Mediterranean Italian style, right? But the other one that's like completely different that I also love is like Japanese Zen. Like that aesthetic to me is like, oh,
I could
Those
Wow.
all sound good to me.
I could fuck
Wow.
with some Japanese
Sounds good.
Zen.
Japanese aesthetic to me is like, oh my God, it's so pure
It's
and
incredible.
pristine and it's so it has the best parts of like Swedish minimalism,
Mhm.
Scandinavian design meets like high quality craftsman, and it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is very functional.
I just
But I
know
think
that
the warmth of Spanish or Mediterranean wins.
I like
for me.
a Tuscan villa
Tuscan.
style.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Oh.
okay, but like it can't be. So I grew up Italian. Well, I guess I am
You're not
Italian,
anymore?
But like I grew up Italian as well.
I grew up Native American
No, Steven
on a
did.
swamp.
No, Steven did.
I did. Thank you very much. It's very important to my backstory. But like there's this like kind of like Italian I grew up with that was like not like that Italian aesthetic you're romanticizing.
Yeah.
It was
The Jersey Italian.
It was like Italian. Like I furnished this place in 1954 Italian.
Okay.
Some like kind of like
New World Italian.
callbacks to Venetia, but like not quite so nicely done. And yeah, it's not good. So not that. There might
Okay,
be some
not that
plastic on the
version.
furniture, which has some
Plastic.
kind of like colorful embroidery on it. It's not
Yeah.
that.
No.
Not that.
I like the old world Italian.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
That's fine with me. I could go with any of those things. Like I could be happy about like if I was like a trillionaire, like I would like to just push button and have my house change like on like a monthly
Right.
basis.
Because
That's
I
the
was
best.
also
I'd be like,
thinking,
I'm living in Greece this
I was
month,
also thinking
you
that
know?
the Japanese might be a fad. Like I might
Yeah.
be like, this is awesome, and then like a year later, I'm like, what is this? What am I doing?
Yeah, it's always the risk with furniture decor.